Hello and welcome. My name is Geeta Chaudhary and I lead the Professional Services Organization for Telecom Business Unit here in Amazon Web Services. I'm pleased to introduce this session and explore the many ways AWS is powering the future of telecom and connecting the world of tomorrow today. Through great partnerships with leading communication service providers and a deep ecosystem of partners, AWS is pioneering new services that enable the success of 5G applications and the underlying network infrastructure to support its successful rollout. Today's session will provide business executives valuable insight into how 5G can power future applications across multiple industries, allowing you to set your business apart. Please allow me to introduce our guests for this discussion: Srinivasa Kalpala, Vice President, Technology Strategy and Network Cloud at Verizon, and David Brown, Vice President, Elastic Compute Cloud at AWS. Welcome, gentlemen. Today's session is centered around the AWS cloud services required to support the successful rollout of 5G. 5G has captured all the hype of today's communication industry, offering speeds up to 10 times the speed of 4G. David, perhaps you can share a bit more about how 5G is going to revolutionize the industry and how AWS is developing services that enable communication service providers to innovate more quickly and provide 5G services to their end customers.
Absolutely, Geeta, and thanks for having me today. AWS has been working with our telco partners for the last couple of years and been doing an enormous amount in helping these providers accelerate digital transformation within their own business. In many cases, data center consolidation and automating business processes, and then also improving the customer experience and bringing newer technologies like machine learning to the telco environment. And so it's on the back of that that we look to support telco providers and are supporting telco providers as they think about the rollout of 5G and the emergence of 5G. And both in what that means for their business, but also what it means for the end customer. 5G is incredibly exciting. It's bringing lower latency, significantly lower latency than what we're able to get from 4G today, much more bandwidth as well. And then also allowing us to bring compute all the way to the edge of the telco network, which we believe is going to power a lot of new types of workloads. And I think in many cases, we don't yet fully realize just with the amount of innovation that 5G is going to bring. But some of the things we're seeing right now are use cases such as video streaming, live video streaming from sports stadiums directly from cameras, smart cars as well as smart cities, Internet of Things, just an incredible increase in the number of IoT devices that are out there and being able to be supported by 5G. And then also things like augmented reality and virtual reality, which are all enabled through the low latency and high throughput that 5G is going to bring. And AWS is innovating across all of these areas to make sure that we're right there to partner with these telcos to make sure that 5G becomes an enormous success and a reality for all of us.
Dave, thank you. That's amazing. Srini, from the perspective of being one of the leading communication services providers in the US, how do you see 5G changing your business and the value you think it's going to bring to your end customers?
When we think about 5G, especially from Verizon perspective, Verizon has always been delivering the best network technologies to our customers first before anybody else. We've done this with the previous generations of mobile technologies. We've done that with fiber to the home. When we look at 5G, we look at it from three dimensions. There is the mobility side of the world, and I'll talk in a second a little bit more about that. Then the fixed wireless broadband access to the customers' homes, and then the third aspect is the multi-access edge computing, also known as the mobile edge computing. On the mobility side, we are building a network that's going to bring many new capabilities to customers. So, in the past, generations of the mobile technology, it used to be typically, voice or broadband and with good amount of coverage and higher throughputs. But when we look at 5G, it's not only throughput, it's about latency, it's about reliability, it's about security, it's about ability to deliver services on demand. There are many what we call 8 currencies that will bring to the bear. And combining that and the slicing that is expected to come with mobile edge computing, we are able to now deliver lots of these new capabilities and the best in computing to the customers, so that the enterprises and developers can work on the new things that they're innovating. So our consumers can expect 5G bringing all these capabilities so that they can in turn experience immersive reality and autonomous mobility and other new technologies. And our enterprises can actually leverage these technologies to build some of these new capabilities for their own customers.
Srini, thank you. And it seems like 5G is changing the game for a lot of enterprises, and Verizon is right in the middle of that. David, can you take us through some of the unique offerings that AWS has to power 5G, and how communication service providers like Verizon and others around the world are utilizing AWS?
Absolutely. Well, when we started looking at how AWS was going to support 5G, one of the things we realized immediately was that latency is going to matter. With the promise of 5G being 10 times faster than what you're able to get on a 4G connection today, we had to make sure that we had a compute environment that didn't add any additional latencies. And one of the challenges is, if you think about how AWS is structured with our regions today, having a user, on the other side of the country talking to an existing AWS region, much of the latency benefit from a 5G connection would be lost. There's a number of networking hops, and obviously you're limited by the speed of light. And so you wouldn't really get the benefit of that low latency that 5G is promising. And so what we realized was we needed to be able to put AWS compute directly into Verizon's network. And so last year at reInvent, we actually announced a project called AWS Wavelength, which embeds AWS compute and storage services right at the edge of the 5G network, so right directly within the Verizon facilities. Obviously making sure that latency benefit that 5G brings is retained and able to be used by our end customer. And so, working with Verizon over the last year, it's been fantastic to have rolled out Wavelength. And we launched it a couple of months back with our first 2 locations in Boston and the San Francisco Bay Area. And over the last few months, we've been able to roll out a total of 7 locations, 2 of them as recently as just this last month, November. And so that includes Atlanta, Boston, San Francisco Bay Area, New York, and Washington, D.C. And obviously continue to work with Verizon to bring low latency compute to their 5G customers. The thing that's really powerful about Wavelength and the partnership with Verizon is it is just the standard AWS experience. And so if you have a development team today that is familiar with deploying AWS applications, using our APIs, using our consoles, using any one of the more than 200 services we have, it's literally a few mouse clicks to be able to deploy into a Wavelength location at any one of those 7 locations on the Verizon network. And so that's something, if you're thinking about 5G, you've got some use cases where you think latency matters or you want to be on a 5G connection, it's incredibly easy to get going with what we've built with Wavelength.
Srini, analysts are calling 5G the biggest technology shift in 100 years, predicted to fuel the 4th industrial revolution. So question for you, can you share with us some of the initial use cases that you're powering with 5G Edge and the impact that these are having on your customers?
Certainly. We are seeing a number of startups, number of established enterprises, working with both our teams in exploring and using this technology for their own use and for their own product development for their own customers. If I were to pick a few among the many that we've been playing with, one would be Sony. Sony is using both Wavelength and 5G as a way to deliver very high resolution video, high fidelity audio, and augmented capabilities and interactive capabilities on top of the video. Now they use the low latency capabilities and the edge processing capabilities delivered by Wavelength to both ingest and process the video and deliver to the end users at a very low latency. we have another startup in the realm of healthcare is Avesha Systems. Avesha uses machine learning to basically detect polyps as part of the endoscopy treatments, and in this case, one of the examples is colonoscopy. So what they do is that using colonoscopy and capturing that video in real time, and then processing all of that imaging against a database of massive amounts of images that they've captured, and doing the machine learning comparison, they're able to identify benign versus concerning polyps, and then certainly provide the right kind of health guidance to their consumers. Now, the 5G's low latency and the very high bandwidth, and the edge machine learning capabilities and data processing capabilities of the wavelength, when we put them together, the Avesha engineers are able to now process the video coming in at a low latency and identify polyps while the camera is moving through the human body, and detect benign versus the troublesome ones. And this provides a much better experience for the customer. They don't have to go through multiple trips, and much better outcome in terms of finding the right ones against the wrong ones. That's another example. We have customers from the automotive industry trialing this. Savari is an example. Savari delivers enhanced mapping, dynamic mapping to both autonomous and normal vehicles. They also provide emergency services, and they also provide computer vision based warning and other kind of capabilities. All these technologies fall into the umbrella of what we call cellular vehicle to everything, CV2X set of technologies. What we see Avesha doing is that Avesha capturing all of this data and the telemetry using the high bandwidth, low latency 5G network and high reliability part of the network to deliver this to the local wavelength MEC, and actually process and respond back to the vehicle or the user in near real time. This is again another example where by putting the cloud close to the network, not only are able to deliver these massive amounts of data and deliver the outcomes in near real time, but we're also able to ensure that they don't have to send all of this data all the way to the far cloud, and in that process deal with bandwidth and other challenges that they may have. And this kind of gives them a way to scale significantly across the footprint. I'm certain, Dave, you've come across a few of your customers, talking to you about how they can leverage 5G and edge together.
Absolutely. Srini, I think you've covered a number of the different industries that we're seeing. I think the one thing that I would add is with 5G being an emerging technology, we're all certainly very excited to see what it enables and what it changes. I think the thing with Verizon and Wavelength is, or to highlight here, is just how easy it is for any organization out there to start thinking about ways of experimenting and how 5G might change your industry, change your environment, change the way that you work. And so, for those that are listening and thinking about, what is 5G going to do for my business? By utilizing Wavelength, literally, as I said earlier, being able to take an application that you've already deployed on AWS and be able to deploy that to a Verizon Wavelength facility very, very quickly. You can do that literally in a number of minutes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Those are powerful examples of how 5G is changing the game for so many end users across multiple verticals, such as healthcare, live streaming events, connected vehicles. And we also covered how the value of wavelength and the role it's playing in powering these 5G use cases. However, AWS has also announced the availability of other types of edge devices, such as outposts. So, question for you, David, when should customers consider using AWS Outpost versus local zones versus wavelength?
So latency really is going to change a lot of what, how we think about computing and the types of applications we build. And while 5G has a promise of very low latency, as you call out, we do have other offerings that are provided to customers to make sure that we can provide low latency compute even when you're not using 5G on other networks. And so the first one of these offerings that we announced actually 2 years ago at reInvent in 2018 is AWS Outposts. And AWS Outposts is really targeted at customers that need or have applications that need low latency access to AWS, but also potentially local data processing requirements. And in some cases, actually maybe data sovereignty. So you may be in a country where you're storing some type of data that you don't want to either leave the state or leave a geographical location. And then Outposts is good for you. So Outposts is literally an AWS rack that we would install directly into either your own personal on-premises data center or a colo facility that you're working with. It's a rack that's dedicated to your applications and your organization. And so typically used in a case where you want to have your own private access to an AWS compute on-premise. Local zones is a concept of, can we bring a full availability zone, which is one of the building blocks of our regions, and provide that to our customers in a geographical location to provide single-digit millisecond latencies for workloads. In this case, the customer doesn't have to manage the rack, they don't have to think about capacity, they just utilize the local zone that's nearby. And so when you think about that, Outpost is where you want your own private AWS rack installed in a facility that you own or in a colo that you have an agreement with, and you want to be able to use those services either for low latency access or data sovereignty within your facility. Local zones is available to anybody over the general internet, but within a geographical area. And so we currently have a local zone in Los Angeles. We're also looking to roll out local zones elsewhere within the US, but also more globally as well. And then Wavelength is directly within the carrier's network. And so AWS compute within the Verizon network in this case, accessible over the mobile networks and with 5G.
I'd like to continue to talk a little bit more about the importance of the network as they support the 5G use cases for the industrial 4.0 applications. As we've heard from our guests, the increasing use of Internet of Things and the rise of data volumes. With all of that happening, the ultimate goal for management and for enterprises is to create smarter factories and to make informed decisions based on automated processes on how to reach the best productivity, efficiency, and cost target. Let's discuss how AWS is addressing this need for different types of applications with the use of private networks. So question for you, David, can you take us through how AWS Outpost enables communication service providers to deploy virtualized network functions in a fully managed service for their customers?
Yes, Geeta, absolutely. So, obviously on the wavelength side, we've spoken about bringing our compute to the edge. And just as Srini was sharing there, we're very excited to not only do that publicly for our wavelength customers, but also be looking at private compute with Outposts together with Verizon's private networks and bringing that mobile edge compute capacity to our customers inside their private facilities. But there's a larger story as well to what AWS has been doing in the telco space. And we've had many of our telco customers look to us and say, what can you do to help us transform our business or be able to deploy a network using AWS hardware? And so this is something we've been doing for the last 3-4 years or so. And customers like Soracom, who have been looking to deploy or have deployed their network functions on AWS. And so they get the benefit of carrier grade security, the availability that you get with AWS, the reliability that our services bring. And all of that is of utmost importance to the telcos. And so being able to utilize AWS takes away a lot of the management that they need to do on the hardware because it's just managed by AWS and allows them to run their network functions in a very cloud-like way. One of the more recent sort of proof of concepts we have going, and something we've spoken publicly about, is the work that we're doing together with Telefonica in Germany. Telefonica is in the process of deploying private 5G networks for a number of their end customers in the automotive industry and a couple of other factories within Germany. And they're actually utilizing AWS Outposts at the edge of their network to run the mobile core, the network core that's required to actually provide a private 5G network to the end customer. And so the benefit of that means that they can very quickly support an end customer that would like a private 5G network, within a factory environment, within a sort of a oil and gas environment, whatever it might be, and very quickly be able to roll that out because the compute required to actually run the core of the network is actually running on AWS Outpost within the facility.
Thank you, Dave. Pretty exciting developments with Telefonica. Srini, coming back to your vision of networks, can you share with us how you see the future of private networks evolving to serve your customers at Verizon?
Yeah, good question, Geeta. As automation and digitization kind of starts moving into the internals of enterprises and industrial environments, we're seeing a need for reliable mobile networks. Even within factories nowadays, you can see that virtualization is becoming more prevalent. The instrumentation that was previously created to just monitor one particular, call it temperature or machine movement and something, now they're all getting virtualized with the data getting centralized so that you can actually create a collective decision based on all of this data intelligence that's coming back to a centralized location. And along with that, we're also noticing that factories are becoming more, refactorable and mobility is kind of getting into their environment in a bigger way with either, robots or whether it is, smaller things that move around. We're seeing a need for a reliable network. This where, private networks play a complementary role to Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is designed for normal basic connectivity, whereas private networks can actually deliver the kind of connectivity, the reliable and low latency connectivity that the machinery and the things in an environment require. So we're actually seeing a lot of interest from enterprises and industries to deliver networks that they can manage, that they can configure in terms of what device gets onto what slice and others. But a network that we can, deliver to them with certain, levels of quality and reliability and others. So we're seeing a good amount of interest for private networks.
Srini, how does AWS Wavelength play a role in Verizon's goal to deliver a 5G that powers the fourth industrial revolution?
Yeah, Geeta, as I talked about the interest within the enterprise and industrial environments in terms of automation and digitization, not only they're looking for a reliable and high performing network within their environments, but they're also looking for a cloud that they can use to deliver all sorts of these applications. Network alone will not be able to deliver the digitization shift, the automation capabilities they're looking for. It's a combination of connecting and delivering that reliable insights, call it computer imaging, call it robotic connectivity, but also enabling them to process them on the local edge and use those insights to control their industrial process. So we're seeing the interest is not just simply for networks, but for both. And in this case, just the way we see Wavelength playing a big role in our macro network and with MEC, we see it as a complementary but a highly capable product to be combined with the private networks to deliver that holistic capability that our customers are looking for.
AWS has a rich history of working with global telecom customers, and we are leading the way due to earning their trust and building AWS services from ground up to address mission-critical applications to deliver on the 5G promise. We understand what it takes to provide cloud services that meet the needs of telecom operators, and we are committed to delivering results for our customers and their customers. I want to thank Verizon for putting their trust in AWS to partner on the delivery of that promise. Special thanks to Srinivasa Kalpala and David Brown for being with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you.